Thanks for joining It's Dating with Katy, and today we'll be talking about the RQ. You're like, Katy, what are all these EQ, IQ, RQs, what DQs, what is this stuff? And yes, I've made it up, but this is what I believe you can figure out your relationship quotient. Is it worth it? Are you doing a good job on your relationship? You are going to want to stay tuned because this is very helpful and applicable to anyone who is starting a relationship or deeply in one, because I myself have been deep in a relationship for many years, and I love doing this little mathematical equation so I can figure out, is this going well for both of us? So stick around for that. But first, make sure you subscribe. I would love it too if you would give me a 5-star review. If you love this podcast, I know a lot of you share it. I was just out country line dancing and some girl said, hey, I know your voice. You have a podcast. She's listened to many of my podcasts. She's shared them with friends. I have a client who just watched all 30 straight through. I mean, they're 15 minutes. They're 1% of your day. Ask any questions and email me with some of your ideas for the next podcast. I mean, guys, you're out there dating. I'm out there dating and in a relationship. Let's see how we can do this better. So, datingwithkaty@gmail.com. Now, if you haven't done so either, get in my database. It is a safe and secure network. If you want some matchmaking, that's what I do for a straight living. If you want some date coaching, I do that as well. Plus, I also make sure that your bio and your photos are fantastic so that you are memorable online. Let's get started with today's RQ. But before I start, I want to share about my last podcast, which is the DQ, and how to know if you are trying to hit outside of your league, right? So many times you've heard, Katy, am I dating outside of my league? What is my league? Well, go back to that podcast and listen. It's a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate yourself? And then are you really trying to find that equal, somebody lesser, or somebody even greater? Go figure that out and let me know what you think. Today's is all for people who are in a relationship. Now, this could be early on. This could be, one of my rules is 3 dates, 3 weeks, 3 months. I have a client right now. He is at 3 weeks with this girl. They're having a great time. I love hearing how they're both mirroring each other's efforts. Guys, if she's not mirroring it back, move on. Ladies, if you like him, you need to mirror that same energy. So I asked him to do this quiz. And I'm going to share it with you in a minute. I also have another client who we've been coaching for months. She finally meets a great guy. She's hungry to get married and have a kid. She's in her later stages. And so they have a couple different, frustrations and situations through their process because he's divorced and he's got kids. And so she really has to figure out, is he the one? Now, I want to explain to you, there's going to be 4 points before we start today. Number 1 point here is that this quiz is about you and that person. This has nothing to do with the situations that are going on outside of the two of you. This is to evaluate how well the two of you are working together. So for example, against those situations. So you're dating someone who has 2 kids, you don't have any, like that is a situation and you need to find the creative solution. But doing my RQ, the relationship quotient, will help you see if you two can actually get to that creative solution. Here's another point I want to make is that nobody is right. Nobody is going to be perfect. So if you're thinking that, is this the right person for me? Relationship quotient by Katy. I got to tell you, no one's going to score 100 out of 100 on this quiz. So for all of my overachievers, good luck for that. The goal is going to be this, and here's my personal choice. I want 90 to 100 points on this. Like, I know that my relationship's going great when I get a 90 and up. And then I would also say that I'm okay also with an 80-20, right? 80% is great, 20% we're working on. I've seen on Instagram 70-30. Now, that's not where I want to live, in my personal opinion, in a relationship. I want to know that it's thriving and doing well. So this quiz will help you see your strengths and your weaknesses. And then lastly, make sure that you both do this quiz. I think if you have the guts to bring it forward to your spouse or even to your partner, to your boyfriend, girlfriend, even someone you're starting to date with, why not? This shows a high EQ. This shows that you are vested. And then this will show you both where you think you are, again, strong and not so strong. So let's get started. Now, if you haven't listened to them, I have a podcast on all 5 of these C's. These are what I call the 5 C's. Episode 31 and 32, go give a listen. Episode 31 is going to deal with my first 3. And these 3 are the most important in the beginning stages of dating because connection, compatibility, and chemistry are huge. Everyone's looking for those, and chemistry always seems to be the big one. Now listen, all of these 5 are equally valuable. They're all going to be worth 20 points. The other 2 in episode 32 in my podcast is communication and compromise. So all of those I'm going to readdress today. And first, let me tell you about the way that you can do the points. Now, I put this on a scale of 1 through 20. And the reason I did that, because it gives you a little bit more leverage on how you want to score yourself. So I would like to say, if you are speaking of you and your partner, you and your boyfriend, girlfriend, or spouse, on a scale of 1 to 20, 20 is you guys have got this nailed down. Probably nobody has anything perfect. So if you give yourself a 20, I'm impressed, but I almost feel like everyone's going to be a 19, even if they're doing great in something, but there's not perfection yet. So 19, anything between 15 to 20 is definitely going to be, we're strong, we're growing, we've got just a little bit more growth, or there's one topic that we need to work on. Great. 15 to 20. Now 10 to 15 is we're good. 14 is like we're getting there. 10 is we've got some things to work on. Again, you can scale that according to what you believe. Now, again, it's how you see and how you perceive you and your person. Then we've got the 5 to 10. This is, we definitely need some work. And anything 0 to 5 is not going well. Katy, SOS, help us out. And I'd say, go listen to that podcast. So score yourself and how you see and perceive your relationship going in the next 5 C's. Let's get started. So number 1 C is connection. How do your souls connect? This one is huge. And now this isn't communication, which we'll be speaking about in a minute. Connection is those deep-hearted share points, being vulnerable with each other. It's somebody who has a high EQ, which we talked about. That's my episode 35. Your emotional quotient. Can you get deep? Can you share your fears? Can you share your future? Can you share your excitement? Usually women are really good and strong at the connection point, and we do try to bring our men into that. Sometimes, guys, though, you have a really hard time processing and getting deep into that connection, soul connection point. So please make sure you're doing the work. Lots of self-help books on there, lots of great podcasts. Connection is huge because eventually communication dies when there's no connection. Chemistry dies when there's no connection. Sure, you can have sex, but it's just loveless. So connection is where that really deep root of love is going to be held and growing in your relationship. Number 2 is your compatibility. And I like to say this is your goals, the goals that you have together. Do you like to do the same things? Are you creating a fun atmosphere in your relationship? I always say, are the picture frames the same? If you're starting to date someone and you see they love skiing and they have great pictures in their bio and you love skiing, that's great because that is compatibility. This also has to ring true, though, in your politics, your religion, and your educational beliefs. Guys, I know we want to be like, oh, opposites attract. It's cute, but eventually it fades. So please make sure that your compatibility and your goals for the future are very equal. And again, on a scale of 1 to 20, how would you put that? Katy, we're an 18. We are so in line. We so love to hang out. We keep our own space, but at the same time, we make sure that we are compatible and have fun together. Number 3 is chemistry. So again, connection is your soul, compatibility is the goals, and chemistry, it's the holes. But just for easy sake, it is about not just sex in chemistry, but your lovingness to each other, your touching, your sweetness, your dancing in the kitchen, your romance. Chemistry is so much more than just sex. So make sure that you really look at all the different ways that they meet that love language. They meet that goal of touch and squeezability, or whatever it is that you need physically for chemistry to happen in your life. Number 4 is your communication. This has to do with everyday life communication. Now, in this day and age, there are way too many ways to communicate. It can almost get confusing. You can be DMing over here, and then she sends you, my girlfriends do this. They DM me on Instagram, and then they send me a text with continuing the conversation over here. And then she picks up a phone and calls me at 7 a.m. doing FaceTime. And I'm like, girl, I haven't even had my coffee yet. So you have to make sure that the two of you are working directly. Communication is easy. It's clear. Here's another thing, guys, make sure you hear her heart. I know women, we can say a lot of words and it takes us some time to get to what we need to understand about ourselves. Make sure you're hearing, make sure we're listening, make sure we're being active communicators. I said this in a podcast as well. If you are a good listener, make sure you're also making active sounds. I even had to teach my son this because he's a great listener, but he's so quiet that I felt like, hello, are you still there? So women do that usually consistently. We go, yeah, right? Oh my gosh. So stay involved, be a good listener, be a good communicator, and score yourselves on that out of 1 through 20. Lastly is, how good are you guys at compromising? Right now, the holidays are happening. Whose house do you go to? Whose kids get this? Where are we going for dinner next week? And compromise isn't always letting one person get their way, because that's way too easy. Compromise, if you're the person who's got the stronger personality, compromise on your end needs to be, hey, I keep picking the restaurants, but I want to hear what you would like to eat. And look, at the end of the day, my boyfriend of a long time, one day I heard he went to a French restaurant with his coworkers, and I had no idea he liked French food. And I asked him, how come we never go to French? And he said, well, you don't like it. And that's true. I don't love French food, but I'd be happy to go with him and compromise to go eat at a French restaurant if that made him happy. So make sure that you're checking that both ways and look at how both of you compromise together. Now, when you take these points, you're going to add them up. And whatever your score is what's going to be out of 100. Again, 100 is the goal, which 95 is what I believe could probably be the highest, unless you guys are just off the charts, amazing. You're listening to the Gottmans. You guys are like there. You've arrived. But again, we should all have things that we are working on. So I'd love to know how you guys scored on this. Now, I can tell you I did this recently with those 2 clients. And the first client was in his early stages, 3 weeks in, and he was like, well, connection's kind of low right now because, we're still sharing things, but we're both slowly doing that. So he was really proud of that, but realized that connection was not as high as some of the compatibility because they were doing tons of fun stuff and really enjoying each other. Communication he had been working on with me, so he felt he was doing really great, and she was a great communicator of all the things he had told me. So they scored very well. They scored in the 80s. And again, this can change. So this is why you keep doing these. You go back and ask yourself, how are we connecting right now? How's our compatibility? Have we done some fun stuff together lately? Are we connected in our politics? Or are we doing church together? Chemistry, am I meeting his physical need? Is he meeting my romance need? And then with my other client, she is loving her relationship with the guy, but she's not loving the situation that they have to deal with. So I really wanted her to focus and take this quiz so she could see that between him and all the other guys she's dated, and she knew that if she did this my little quiz, my RQ quiz, relationship quiz, with any other guy, she knows they would not have scored high. But this gentleman who has been pursuing her, consistent with her, great communicator, chemistry is off the chart for them. And he is doing everything to connect and share with her. They scored very high. They scored an 87, and she was really encouraged by that because she knows that even though the situation isn't great, and we talked about creative solutions for that, he is great. So keep that in mind. I am a believer that if you two are great together, you can think of anything to fix a problem. Guys, that's my creative solutions. I tell my kids creative solutions to everything, right? And again, there might be some compromise. There might need to be some compatibility, whatever there is in that. Communication has to go really well for that to happen, for the situation to get creatively solved. And I am all for all of you being in fantastic relationships, not just great dating, but fantastic relationships. I'm so excited. I have to report that I just got invited to a champagne party of a client who I put together with his girlfriend, and they are doing phenomenal. Again, if you want some advice, go follow me on Instagram. If you want me to matchmake for you, make sure you reach out to me. There's a work with me button below, and there's a work with me button on my Instagram. You guys, I am here to help you get confident, be successful, and have fun dating. So let me know what you think of this relationship quotient, and make sure you go listen to all my other podcasts. All right, guys, cheers to great dating.